Having myself been to Japan, I resonate strongly with certain aspects of traditional Japanese culture. Today, I think it's important for us to talk about a spirit called the Baku. What the Baku does is he feasts on the dreams of children. Now, this isn't quite as scary as it sounds. The Baku eats good dreams as well as nightmares, so as the story goes, when a child wakes up in the middle of the night, let's say, and they've got all these racing fears having just woken up from a nightmare, they can call out to Baku-san. Basically, the Baku will go into their room and eat the bad dream. Now, this sounds like a good thing because it would allow the child to go back to sleep, and it is. But should you call on the Baku too many times, he will also devour your hopes and desires, leaving you with an unfulfilled life. And this is what I want to talk about. It's very similar, in my opinion, to Western stories like, for instance, The Great Gatsby, whereby if you have all of your hopes and desires fulfilled, you lose the capability eventually to get more, and you wind up with an unfulfilled life. I want to point out, just because I've seen a lot of sadness just around lately, I feel like there's a lot of general emptiness, be it people getting their fears confirmed to the point at which they're no longer able to be a driver, or where it's people giving up on their hopes and dreams. And both of these things are just generally extremely unhealthy, in my opinion. Those things, your hopes, your wants, your dreams and desires, those are the most important things when it comes time to getting a fulfilled life. If you look at Immanuel Kant, who I know I've talked about before, as 3 rules for happiness, I find that these things, while simplistic, do a fantastic job of laying out the conditions to be fulfilled. Those are 1. Something to do, 2. Someone to love, and 3. Something to hope for. I'd just like to put a little service announcement out to everybody and make sure that we know this. I mean, I've definitely been in a place where I've overfed the Baku, and the Baku has most certainly come. Trust me, there's no worse feeling than feeling absolutely nothing. If there's nowhere that you want to go, then there's absolutely no justification to go anywhere. And that's just kind of a horrible way to be, because it doesn't really matter as much what you're striving for as it does that you're striving for something. As I've said myself, and probably my favorite poem that I've ever written, the joy of craps lies not in losing, but the thrill of casting dice. This is an important thing for us to remember, because while the joy of fishing may come in catching a great big fish, right, it's not the fish itself which brings us that joy. I mean, if we just happened upon a large fish, well, it'd be kind of gross. We might have questions. But it certainly wouldn't be that rush, the thrill of enjoyment. That only comes from the effort that you put in to catching the fish. If you don't actually want the fish, you'll never put in that effort. So we see that if you get the fish, right, if you just happen upon a fish, you don't get that same kind of rush. And if you don't have a fish, obviously, you'll never have that kind of rush. Therefore, you need to want it, and then you need to act on those wants and go fishing in order to be fulfilled. We need to remember this in life. Everybody does. That said, it's very important to make sure you're not too stressed. I mean, a lot of the times what happens is too much stress will eventually lead in to this kind of mindset. At least that's what happened with me. Whereby you'll just keep assuming more and more and more and more stress. And basically what happens is you'll just start to compartmentalize and shut them down on your own. If you're letting this process go on automatic and you're not managing your own stress and, keeping basically your psychology healthy, then your stress will begin to manage itself. Once that happens, you'll essentially end up overfeeding the Baku very, very quickly. Because if you're not deciding where and how you call him, he's just going to continuously show up, and he will inevitably devour your wants, your hopes, your dreams as well. I don't like seeing that happen. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, as I said, just very sad, very depressed recently. We've become a very materialistic society. I've heard this a couple times in the last couple of days on YouTube, and I definitely agree with that. So this is just my little message, my little announcement to everybody. Don't overfeed the Baku. Do use him, but manage your stress. And most importantly, remember those rules of happiness. Something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. Remember them, prioritize them, and then try to adhere to them. If at any point you find that your life doesn't align, you can't really fit yourself into those three categories, then maybe it's time to really sit down and plot them out. Because the first two, those are variable, right? Well, we all want to have somebody to love, and I'm sure we've all been through periods of time where it feels like we're really lacking in that category. Maybe we've been betrayed. The thing is, you need to keep getting out there. You need to keep striving to meet those three categories, because those first two can be made to fall into place with hard work. But that third one isn't just you. It is just mindset, but it's not a mindset that anybody can just flip a switch on. So it's something that you need to cherish. You need to make sure that you love the fact that you have dreams and wants and hopes for the future. Because if you had everything today, then life really wouldn't be worth living in the future. Alright, that's all I'm going to say. I know it might have sounded a bit disjointed, and people might be wondering where this came from, but I do want to talk about a little bit more philosophical content as well. I like my politics, but I find that it alienates people, and I do also find that it gets very... I know it's weird to say this coming off of a talk about philosophy, but it gets very heavy. For me, the philosophy is a lot less heavy because it's a form of helping us navigate the minefield of life. It's a map, it's a way forward, whereas politics is more of identifying the mines, so to speak. That said, everybody should just have a great day. Catch you later.